Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. This is the 13th part of What If Deku Had Psychokinesis. I hope you enjoy. Link to the original story and author in the description. Chapter 13, The People You Meet and the Choices You Make. It was late, and after a long day of classes, Himiko wanted to be anywhere other than the seat she was forced to be in at the very moment. Even if she had agreed to be here, she didn't have to enjoy it. Especially when it cut into her personal time. Leaning back into the cushions, Himiko looked over at her own personal counselor who sat across from her. Midnight was watching her, patiently waiting for her to finally say something. "Do we really have to do this tonight? You know full well that you agreed to these sessions." Himiko rolled her eyes. Agreed was just another way to say forced. One of the terms laid out to her. Aha! This doesn't have to be antagonistic. I'm here to listen and talk to you. That's all. Yellow eyes flashed dangerously. You're playing the role of a shrink. Shrinks always want to put ideas into my head. Not exactly a fan of people trying to tell me how to think. Midnight didn't show any outward reaction to the anger in the girl's eyes. Talking calmly, she pushed on. No, and considering your past, I can't say that I blame you. Sneering, Himiko looked away. Can we not go there? I was having a really good day. I don't want it ruined dragging up old shit. I should have just skipped this and gone to bed. Midnight raised an eyebrow as her voice took a stern tone. And have 2 strikes in just 2 days? Himiko flinched. She hated to admit it, but the heroine had a point. Her tenuous position with the school and the law had her on thin ice as it was. Her decision to leave the premises without telling anyone was, in fact, more than enough reason to have her face serious consequences. Fortunately, Principal Nizu had decided to believe Inko after their phone call, that she had simply forgotten to ask for permission to leave the school, and had been kind enough to let her off with just a warning. A very pointed warning, detailing offhandedly everything that could happen to her if she broke her agreement again, but just a warning nonetheless. 2 strikes? Guess it really is 3, and I'm out. Seeing that the girl understood, Midnight let herself relax. If we aren't going to talk about your past, then let's talk about something more positive. You said you had a good day today? Despite being in a sour mood moments ago, Himiko smiled brightly. The sudden mood changes used to throw Midnight during their first sessions together. Now, she at least wasn't so caught off guard. Oh, today was great. Playing with my classmates was so much fun, and best of all, I got to see Izuku in his cute costume. Himiko covered her cheeks and squealed. He was just so adorable. I could have just eaten him up on the spot. Toga, Midnight kept her voice level but still gave the girl a pointed look. It's just a figure of speech. Calm down. That smile on your face sure didn't make it look like a figure of speech. Midnight decided to move on. You've talked a lot about Midoriya before school started. Now that you've seen him again, does he still live up to your first meeting? Oh, absolutely. He's still as cute as I remember. Such an adorable face covered in freckles. Oh, and his eyes. So kind, but with a fire behind them. Then there's his body. Oh, I got such a nice little peek the other day, and then on top of what I saw him do during class, Himiko shuddered, face burning red, eyes glazing over, and her hands clutched at her skirt, just thinking what he could do to me. The things I could do to him. It's enough to make me explode. Please don't. I don't want to have to get new furniture. Sorry. Himiko didn't look at all sorry. Seeing that she was quickly losing the girl to her fantasies, Midnight coughed to get her attention, to keep her talking. So he's exactly like you hoped he'd be. That must be nice. The wide grin Himiko had gotten a little smaller as she made herself calm down so she could talk. Well, he is a bit naive. It's endearing, and after seeing it, I wouldn't want him to be any different, but the real world doesn't treat naivety very well. Little lambs tend to get ripped apart by the big bad wolves. Do you think he's in danger of that? Himiko frowned, and a look came over her that Midnight had never seen before. It wasn't the girl's normal angry look. When she got angry, really angry, there was a dark and sinister glow in her eyes. This time, it was something else. He won't be while I'm around. Midnight was momentarily stunned. This was the first time she had ever heard the girl talk about protecting anyone. She had heard that she'd stopped another boy from confronting Izuku during Aizawa's strange test, but to see it herself. It might be the first time she truly thought this girl had a chance. It might be based on some warped sense of possessiveness, but it was something at least. I suppose I can understand your excitement seeing him again, but I've heard you've also made other friends. Tell me about them. Does that feeling extend to them, I wonder? Toga sat up and started listing them off on her fingers. Well, there's Tenya. I'm pretty sure he was born with a steel rod up his butt and a silver spoon in his mouth. He's a good person though. Funny too, step out a line and he freaks out. He's gonna be fun to tease. Hitoshi kinda reminds me of myself. How so? Guy grew up with people thinking his quirk was scary. Himiko made air quotes as she rolled her eyes, so he had to deal with a lot of stupid growing up. Kinda like me, except people weren't trying to get him to pretend he didn't have his quirk. Make him be someone he wasn't. Himiko took a deep breath, calming herself. The boy needs to go to a spa or something though. He looks tired all the time. Midnight quickly scribbled a few notes as Himiko talked. While it was clear her connection to her other friends was not as intense as it was with Izuku's, there at least still was a connection. She could build on that. When Himiko stopped talking, Midnight glanced up at her, wondering why she had stopped. There's another person in your little group, right? Uraraka. Himiko's relaxed smile she had when talking about the two boys faded. Ochako? I'm not sure about her. You're not sure? About what? I mean, she's nice, but it's hard to be friends with a liar. Midnight leaned forward. That's a pretty harsh accusation coming from you. What do you think she's lying about? That's the thing, I don't know. It's kinda infuriating. Kinda makes me want to. Himiko clenched her hands around an invisible neck and shook. For the most part, she'd be the perfect girlfriend to hang out with, like at the mall and stuff. She has the bubbly, down-to-earth, girl-next-door vibe to her, but she's also hiding this Amazonian spitfire just under the surface. Not afraid to get her hands dirty and throw down. That kind of thing. She does keep getting between me and Izuku though, that can get a little annoying, but she's been his friend for a while so I can give her a pass for now. I'd rather not get into a fight with a friend of his and make him think poorly of me. It's just, when I look at her, there are times when she looks off to me. She's hiding something. She has this mask she's wearing, and that's something I know a lot about. Pretending and wearing masks, like I used to. I sure wouldn't trust another person like me, that's for sure. Do you think she's dangerous? Himiko snorted. Anyone can be dangerous. Just ask poor Tsuyu. Like I said, Amazonian spitfire. If you're asking if I think she's another knife lover like myself, no. She's not that at all. I guess I'm just saying it's hard to be friends with someone who's keeping secrets from you. Liars don't make great friends. Midnight hummed, wondering who Himiko was talking about at the end. Ochako, or maybe herself. What about the rest of your classmates? Any issues? Himiko hesitated, but ultimately decided to abide by the class's decision to not bring up Minoru. I've only gotten to spend a few hours with them. So I don't really know a lot about them. They seem nice, I guess. It is a nice change of pace to have other girls to talk to. At least ones that aren't 3 times my age. I am not 3 times older than you, Midnight replied curtly, making Himiko laugh. Anyway, I saw during your class with All Might you chose not to fight the other team. You showed a lot of restraint given that you are allowed to use your quirk and support gear for those classes. Himiko shrugged, purposely avoiding eye contact with the hero, tapping her foot on the floor, I suppose. Being allowed to use your quirk would mean you'd have a chance to taste some real blood. I know you aren't a fan of the artificial stuff we've been giving you. You weren't tempted at all to collect a little? How long has it been since you had a taste? Himiko's foot tapped the ground faster and faster the more Midnight talked. At the end her whole leg was bouncing as she fought to maintain her composure. She knew loaded questions when she heard them. Not since I moved in, you know that. I just didn't think slicing open or sticking a needle into one of my classmates would leave the best impression on on everyone. She's worried what Midoriya will think when he finds out about her quirk. That's a pretty big change to how she was when she first got here. Let's move on from that. Back to your classmates. I guess you're pretty lucky to be in a class full of people you'd want to leave a good impression on. You must like them at least. For a brief instance, Midnight felt her instincts flare up, warning her of danger. Himiko looked absolutely murderous for a brief moment before she relaxed. Still, her killing intent was leaking out all over the place, and Midnight couldn't tell if she was trying to hide it or couldn't be bothered. Not everyone. Who? Midnight had a pretty good guess already. She thought back to the incident yesterday. Bakugou Katsuki. That's the same boy, alright. What could the kid have done to get Toga this angry? I've heard the boy is a little headstrong, and kids in the hero classes are known to form rivalries with their classmates or even with the other class. A and B are often paired against each other to push them to work harder. Perhaps this Bakugou. Midnight trailed off. The look Himiko had sent a shiver up the hero's spine. She had seen the girl in the middle of her bloodlust before. During her early days at Judoe, to help her work out her violent tendencies, Ectoplasm would create his clones for her to hunt and kill. The look of sheer joy and pleasure she had as she attacked had left an impression on her that she'd never forget. The bloodlust she was feeling from Himiko now had the same intensity, but the emotion behind it was completely different. This was anger, hatred, and rage. Himiko only got like this when discussing her parents or the treatments they had forced her to take. She got like this, but never to this extreme. It was alarming. I'm supposed to tell you, or any staff member, when I start having feelings that I want to act on. Feeling that could get someone hurt. Right. Yes. I want to kill him. I want to stab him. Slit his throat open so I don't have to hear his voice anymore. I hate him. Why? I think he hurt Izuku. You think? When everyone went to Izuku's home, we ran into Bakugou on the way. He was waiting for Izuku. He said something mean to Izuku and left. When Tenya asked what their deal was, it looked like Ochako was about to say something, but Izuku got her to drop it. He got us all to promise we'd let it go. He wants a fresh start, or something. I dunno, boys can be stupid. Midnight frowned as she listened. Each student in the hero course is given a screening before final admissions. If something like that had been in a police or school record, we'd know about it. Himiko scoffed, right, because we live in a perfect society where the talented and powerful aren't given special privileges. Like clean records. Do you have proof? Himiko shook her head. Midnight sighed. I'm glad you told me that you are feeling like this. I have to ask, while you have these violent thoughts, do you think you are in danger of acting on them? No. I'm finally with my darling Izuku. I'm not going to screw that up now. Waited almost a year, some blonde-haired jerk isn't going to screw me over now. Midnight started to sigh in relief before Himiko added, but I'm not going to just stand by if he hurts my Izuku. No point in getting into an argument over that right now. She's settled down now, and I don't want to rile her back up. Alright Toga, I think this has been a productive session. I do have one question though. A follow-up to something you said about Uraraka. Yeah? You said she's keeping something from you. Is whatever she knows about Midoriya and Bakugou it? Himiko shook her head as she stood up. It's not that. It's something else. Don't know what it is. Sorry. With their talk over, Himiko got up to leave the office, but stopped at the door and turned to look at Midnight, who titled her head to the side. Once the meeting was done, Himiko normally left as quickly as she could. This might have been the first time she ever stopped before. I have a question for you, if that's alright? Of course. Is this going to work? Or is it all just a waste of time? Heroes save people all the time, but can they save someone when she doesn't think she needs saving? Midnight, taken aback by the question, took a second before she answered, I think the answer all depends on you. Doesn't it? Himiko stood silently at the door for a few more seconds, before silently leaving. Nizu scanned over the report Midnight had given him as she poured herself and the principal a drink. Interesting. Very interesting. I must say, our toga has come leaps and bounds compared to how she was only a few months ago. She wants to kill one of her classmates, Midnight added as she sipped her tea. Yes, but only the one now. I was expecting a few more would rub her the wrong way, but she seems to be keeping an open mind. Very good. Wait, what do you mean only the one now? Ignoring Midnight's question, Nizu kept reading, and we mustn't ignore the reason behind her desires. Before she acted, just for the joy of it. The thrill. Now she has a reason, and it's to protect someone. Oh, this is just incredible. She's even making a conscious effort to keep her bloodthirst under control. Remarkable. I still think it was a mistake to let her arm herself like she has. One syringe would have been more than enough for her to be able to extract blood to use her quirk safely. I agreed that we wouldn't treat her any differently than any other student in the hero course. If a student is allowed to attach cannons to his arms, on what grounds can we say no to a few knives? It all comes down to tick for tack. She follows our rules, she gets to stay here and be with her darling. Except she isn't following all the rules. She has within reason. You do know Aizawa confiscated a box cutter from her today. Within reason. Midnight groaned and took a large gulp of her tea. Kayama, what do you think about her last question to you? A moment of clarity? A deeper understanding of herself and her situation? I don't really know. Maybe? This girl is so broken, Nizu. She's so twisted in on herself, her views of right and wrong are so warped. And yet those twisted views brought her here. She followed kindness, I think that says something about her. How and why she followed are another matter, I will grant you, but the point still stands. The two went back to their tea, drinking in silence before Nizu spoke again. I know full well the risk we are taking. It wouldn't take much for Toga to finally snap. If that happens, it would mean the birth of a truly terrifying villain. Midnight smiled, it's a hero's job to stop villains, even if that means stopping a person from becoming one. That's what you said when you told all the faculty what you were doing. And right after, you offered to counsel the girl. I guess my words hit home. Midnight shrugged, I really hope we can pull this off. I really do. We must. Failure is too horrible an outcome to fathom. If we do succeed though, not only will we have stopped a villain, I think we may have helped give rise to a truly spectacular hero. When Izuku had returned to the boys' locker room, he was startled to find his friends waiting for him at the door. He was grateful that no one asked if he had been able to catch up to Katsuki. Tenya simply said he should hurry and change so they did not stay on school grounds after hours for too long, though it wasn't with his usual exuberance. He was surprised when Ochako walked up behind him and said he should hurry so they weren't late for dinner. Sheepishly, he excused himself and got changed. While he did, he could help but think to himself, she knew. Not that he had gone after Katsuki, but she knew everything that happened when he had caught him. He wasn't sure how he felt about that. Ashamed? As with anything involving Katsuki, it made things complicated. Once changed, the group walked the halls slowly as they left. Taking time to talk about their first day of classes, what they had enjoyed, and what they looked forward to now that they had had a taste of the heroics course. When they had reached the front gate, Himiko hung back, stating she probably shouldn't leave campus again after last night's mishap. Everyone said their goodbyes and went on their way. The rest of the time he spent with Ochako that day, the walk home and dinner, she never let on if she had overheard anything. She kept her conversations light and happy. The only clue Izuku had was that every once in a while, when she thought he wasn't looking, her smile would fade a little, and her eyes would darken. She was worried about him. Uraraka has been there for me, is here for me, and I'm still running after Kaken. What is wrong with me? This thought ate away at Izuku long after he lay his head down to go to sleep. He didn't just have Ochako now, Hitoshi, Tenya, and Himiko, they were all his friends. They were kind to him, listened to him, respected him. They were real friends, and yet he couldn't stop himself from trying to get Katsuki back. Katsuki, who would belittle him, hit him, burn him, and blast him, with no signs of remorse. This was the person he wanted to be friends with again. What was he willing to give up to get Katsuki's friendship back? Tenya? Hitoshi? Himiko? The thought made his stomach twist. Ochako? That made his heart hurt. Losing Ochako would break him. It would destroy him. Losing someone that he yell. Izuku clenched his eyes shut, pushing that thought back. That was not a line of thought he was going to go down right now. He valued Ochako's friendship too much. He respected her too much to dare to start to think about her like that. She was too important to him to let a few hormonal thoughts ruin everything they had. Thinking back to how he acted seeing her in her costume, how he had stared at her when she wasn't looking. Staring because of just how good she looked. He couldn't stop another feeling of shame washing over him. I'm just as bad as Mineta. Shaking the thoughts from his head, he settled to keep his mind on a problem that he might actually have an answer for. Which actually brought a chuckle to his lips. Kaken is the problem I think I can solve. Ha ha ha. Months ago he had told Ochako that he felt he needed to surpass Katsuki. Maybe that was it, maybe that was the key to everything? If he could in some way, definitively prove to himself, Katsuki, or anyone that he had been better than him. Maybe then he would finally be able to just let go. To be able to move on and focus on what was really important. Being the best friend he could to everyone. Becoming a hero. Making himself ready for one for all. Convinced, at least for now, that he had come up with some kind of solution for his inner turmoil, Izuku finally closed his eyes and fell asleep. It was still an hour or so before his alarm would go off, that Izuku was awoken by a ringing from his phone. Groaning, Izuku blindly reached over and picked it up, staring at the screen until his blurry eyes could focus on the message. Invitation to chat room Deku from H.Toga. Do you accept Y/N? Izuku blinked at the name on the screen, groaning in embarrassment. What is that name? I gotta get her to change that before anyone else sees it. Midoriya has entered the chat. Midoriya, Toga, why that name? H.Toga, H.I. H.Toga, I couldn't think of author names. H.Toga, Izuku and Midoriya don't really work for team names. H.Toga, do you not lick it? H.Toga. Midoriya, wait. Midoriya, I mean inflated. Midoriya, but why me? H.Toga, carrot nabla carrot. H.Toga, Tenya thought it was a good name too. Midoriya, W8 Ida is here? H.Toga, he's still typing. H.Shinso has entered the chat. T.Ida, I agree with you Toga. When it's all said and done, Midoriya is the linchpin that holds our group together. We each have some connection to him, so it makes sense that we name our group after him. I still think you should have waited and made sure he would be okay with your choice however. While Uraraka may use that name with him, so apparently does Bakugou, so there may be a complicated history behind it that we might want some clarity on before we ultimately decide to use Deku as our group name. Good morning Midoriya, I hope this fine day finds you well. I find it so reassuring that you two also believe in the early to rise philosophy. I see you are confused by Toga's idea for the chat room she set up for us. She reasoned that since each person in our group has some connection to you specifically, it should be named after you. I in fact agreed with her, though I did express some concerns that you may be put off by someone else using your nickname, as only Uraraka and Bakugou use it. Which I must admit I find perplexing, but I'm sure it's part of your complicated history with him, so I will not pry. H.Toga. H.Toga, words. Midoriya, yikes. H.Shinso, why is the first THNGIC and the morning that? I. Midoriya, hi Shinso. H. Toga, Mr. Sleepy is here. O. Uraraka has entered the chat. I. Midoriya, good morning Uraraka. H. Shinso, I was sleeping. H. Shinso, hi everyone. T. Ida, is there something wrong with my message? I thought I was very clear. Did I miss something? H. Toga, I call the first meeting of Deku Squad to order. O. Uraraka, mornin' Deku. O. Uraraka, hey everyone. O. Uraraka, Team Deku. Yay! H. Shinso, IWS sleeping. Why now? T. Ida, yes, I'm also confused as to why you decided to send out invites to this chat room so early. This easily could have been done during lunch today. Is there some emergency? At the school? O. Uraraka, meeting? I. Midoriya, no clue. O. Uraraka, so many words Ida, confused face. H. Toga.
Omega.
H. Toga, order. H. Toga, first order. H. Toga, all in favor of Deku Squad. H. Toga, Y/N. T. Ida, yes. I. Midoriya, W8. O. Uraraka, Y. 1. H. Shinso, Y. H. Shino, sleep now? H. Toga, wise have it. H. Toga.
Omega.
Izuku covered his face, groaning into his hand. H. Toga, second order. H. Toga uploaded a picture. H. Toga, look at this. Blinking, Izuku tapped the file Himiko had posted and gasped at the sight. It was dark, either right after sundown or before sunup, but there in front of the gate to UA was a horde of reporters and news crews crowding the entrance. Large vans and their portable satellites blocked the street and sidewalks. It looked like a real mess. O. Uraraka, wow. H. Shinso, that's last night right? H. Shinso, dusk. H. Shinso, not dawn. T. Ida, that is certainly a lot of reporters. Word must have gotten out that All Might is teaching at UA now. H. Toga, that's now. H. Toga, just tuck pick. H. Shinso, no. I. Midoriya, how are we getting into school? H. Shinso, no. H. Toga, G8S already triggered 2x. H. Toga, woke me up. H. Shinso, no. H. Toga, wanted to warn you guys. H. Toga, have fun Xing that. T. Ida, it's only the media. As young heroes, we have a responsibility to create a working relationship with them to better help our advances in the world of heroics. I. Midoriya, thank you for the warning. I. Midoriya, gonna be fun. O. Uraraka, cries. H. Shinso, third order? H. Toga, nope. H. Shinso, bed. H. Shinso, L8er. H. Toga, boy needs ZZZ. T. Ida, I must also start getting ready for our classes later. I will see you all in homeroom. O. Uraraka, may want to leave early. O. Uraraka, in case we get? S. I. Midoriya, yeah. I. Midoriya, I might just make breakfast now. O. Uraraka, okay. O. Uraraka, we'll text when close. O. Uraraka, THX for warning Toga. O. Uraraka, bye bye. H. Toga, you eat breakfast together? I. Midoriya, I on her way to school. H. Toga, oh. H. Toga, that nice. H. Toga, HUI. H. Toga, easy fix to this problem Izuku. H. Toga, so you don't have to worry about press anymore. I. Midoriya, really? I. Midoriya, what's your idea? H. Toga, sleep over here with me. I. Midoriya, with you? Midoriya, OH. Midoriya, camping. Midoriya, you mean camp over? Toga, yaft, as. Midoriya? Toga, NVM. Toga, dropped phone. Toga, you are so G-rated Izuku. Toga, CUL8er. Sighing and still a little confused, Izuku put his phone away and rolled out of bed. Convinced that today was going to be a long day. Are there more people here? This looks like more people than were in Toga's picture. Ochako scratched her head in utter bewilderment while Izuku chuckled nervously. While both had been prepared for a crowd thanks to Toga's warning, it was clear that the scale of the media circus was on a whole other level than what either had been expecting. I mean, All Might does tend to draw a crowd wherever he goes. Him teaching at such a prestigious school like UA was bound to get out eventually. Still, Ochako said as she looked at the sea of people, this is way too much. You know, I wonder if this is just going to be a thing we'll have to deal with from now on? Well, before reporters had to get lucky that they'd be at a site that All Might showed up at to help. Now they know that he's always going to be here. Ochako thought about that, then looked like she was ready to cry. Please no. I don't want to have to deal with this every day from now on. Izuku couldn't help but laugh at Ochako's pitifulness while he pulled out his phone. Well, I wonder if I gave Toga a text if she'd be able to sneak us in? She was pretty stealthy yesterday. And just like a switch had been flipped, Ochako went from timid in the face of the reporter C to determined. Eyes hardened and jaw set, she looked at Izuku with enough force to make the boy take a step back. Uraraka? We're training to be heroes, Deku, and heroes don't run from a challenge. We're not going to sneak into our own school. We're not? We're going to walk right that crowd and through the front gate. We are? Dramatically Ochako pointed forward, towards the front gate of U.A. Let's go, Deku. Alright. The pair's exuberance was short-lived however. Almost immediately reporters, seeing a new set of UA students they hadn't gotten interviews with, descended on them and bombarded them with question after question. Hey, you! How are All Might's classes? Will you tell us about what the symbol of peace is like as a teacher? What do you think of All Might as a teacher? Is it true he's in a relationship with one of the other teachers? There are rumors that he and Midnight were seen talking to each other last night. Are they secretly dating? What kind of things is All Might teaching you? They were finally given a chance to breathe a few yards away from the front gate when an alarm blared to life, and the security systems kicked on, slamming closed the gate, and erecting a high solid steel wall around the whole perimeter. A female reporter stumbled back in shock while a few people around her snickered at her rookie mistake. Ha, gate got another one. What the heck? Screamed the reporter as she dusted herself off. You must be new if you don't know about this. It's the UA barrier. At least that's what we all call it at our station. The whole place has scanners and cameras everywhere. If anyone tries to get in without a student ID or pass, the security system kicks in and locks the entrances down. An older reporter explained to her. The hell? They think they can just lock us out like that? That's so lame. They could at least send All Might out to at least give us a brief comment or something. Ha, UA doesn't play by anyone's rules but their own. Grumbling to herself, the reporter finished dusting herself off, and started to walk away from the gate. Stupid high and mighty heroes. If I could just get an interview with All Might, it'd be my ticket for a promotion. At this rate, I'm gonna get passed up. I just need some way to get inside. When she looked up, she spotted Izuku and Ochako making their way past some distracted reporters. A student ID, huh? Ochako sighed in relief as they neared the gate. Deku, promise me the next reporter that ever comes our way, you'll protect me from them. What happened to not running from a challenge? Izuku teased. Okay, it is too early in the morning for me to deal with your snark right now. You know I was right. Ochako ground her teeth. She was not going to say getting Himiko's help was a good idea, but she also knew she couldn't say it was a bad idea after what they just went through. Excuse me? Almost wailing, Ochako moved so that she put Izuku between her and the new reporter that walked up to them. Sorry Deku, I'll make this up to you. Gulping, Izuku did his best to smile, though his jaw was starting to hurt after forcing it for so long. Hi. I'm sorry, but we really need to get to class. We've already answered a lot of questions about All Might in the school. The reporter clasped her hands around Izuku and gave him the saddest puppy dog eyes she had. Please just wait a second. I really need your help? Oh. Okay? Izuku stammered out, taken off guard by the young woman's plea. Behind him, Ochako blinked and looked between the two. Please, I really need your help. You're a student here, right? Why yes. So you have a badge that lets you get onto the campus then? While Izuku stammered out an affirmative, Ochako's eyes narrowed at the woman. Please, can I borrow it? I really need to land this story, but UA has that stupid barrier so I'm stuck. If you help me, I'll make sure all your quotes are on the front page, even your picture. I don't think I can do that. Ochako nodded. That's right. Deku wouldn't fall for something so shady you. The reporter frowned briefly before eyes went from puppy dog to sultry. Taking one hand off of Izuku's, she made sure that he watched as she undid the top button of her blouse and pulled one seam to the side. You know, you're pretty cute, and I'd be more than happy to show you just how grateful I'd be for your help. Izuku went stiff, as he lost any ability to functionally form words. You fucking whore. Now very angry, and very over all the reporters, especially the one flashing Izuku her cleavage, Ochako decided she didn't want to wait for the gate to open back up. Reaching out, she grabbed Izuku by the back of his school blazer, floating him as she yanked him away from the other woman and held him above her head. Shooting the woman the angriest glare she could, Ochako floated herself and jumped up and over the outer wall around UA, taking a still completely broken Izuku with her. Sighing, the reporter redid her button. Next time maybe I should try a boy that doesn't have a jealous girlfriend holding onto him by the short hairs. Oh well. She was about to look for another student to try and get an ID from, when a very tired, but very stern voice got her attention. Excuse me, Mississippi. Would you mind telling me what you were trying to do with my student there? When Ochako, roughly, slid the class door open, she got a few strange looks. When she came in, still holding a frozen and sputtering Izuku above her head, everyone turned to look at her. She ignored them and marched over to Izuku's seat and slid the boy into his desk. Katsuki turned around while Ochako walked over to Momo, asking if she could make some smelling salts. Himiko rushed over to his desk, while a couple of students snapped their fingers in front of his face, trying to snap him out of his daze. Hitoshi, did you mind whammy my Izuku? No, though it sure looks like he's under some kind of trance. Dude looks broken. Midoriya Izuku has stopped responding. Katsuki noted the glazed look in Izuku's eyes and the very deep blush on his cheeks. The fuck? Did the nerd get his first look at a pair of tits or something? While a few students chuckled, they all immediately stopped when Ochako, after getting some salts from Momo, whirled around and stomped back over. Some women have no sense of self-respect or decency. Wait, Denki started as he looked from Izuku to Ochako. Is Bakugou right? Who Denki could feel Kyokazir Jax aiming for him, would do something so horrible? Himiko, who appeared neutral, but was giving off such a blood-curdling aura that several students were making sure they gave her plenty of space, also seemed very interested in hearing the answer. Yes, who would do something like that? Also, you wouldn't happen to know where they are right now. For reasons. It was one of the reporters outside. Ochako grunted as she bent down and snapped the smelling salt under Izuku's nose. She wanted Deku to give her his school ID so she could get into UA and interview All Might. Had a sob story and promised him he'd be on the front page. Deku said no. Tenya nodded in approval. Our IDs are badges of honor. To give them out for such a frivolous reason would be a great betrayal of trust with our school. Ochako continued, and when that didn't work, she tried to seduce him, saying how grateful she'd be, and then she started to undo the top of her blouse. Izuku's eyes suddenly focused and he turned away, gasping for breath and to get the strong smell out of his nose. While Izuku recovered, Denki scratched the back of his head. Does Midoriya not have access to the internet or something? While this got a few snickers from some classmates, Ochako and Toga shot Denki a look that made the boy decide that it was time to go back to his seat. Izuku looked around and saw that somehow he was in class, sitting at his desk with Ochako looking over him. Remembering what had happened, he felt a sudden panic. I didn't mean to look. Oh no, what if Uraraka thinks I'm a pervert now? Uraraka Ochako smiled and patted him on the shoulder. Welcome back to the world of the living, Deku. Thought I lost you there for a second. She's not mad? Oh, thank goodness. When he looked around and saw the rest of his class holding back snickers and laughs, he let his head fall onto his desk. They know? Yep. Oh no. Himiko, no longer angry, ruffled Izuku's hair. If Midnight is the R-rated hero, you are totally the G-rated hero. Disney approved. Someone from behind added. Izuku groaned, bury me. Please. Seeing that Izuku was back to normal, Ochako and the rest of the class went back to their seats. Not long after Aizawa walked in, holding a stack of papers. Right, there are a couple of things I want to get out of the way before we start class. I have reviewed your performances from yesterday's class. Good work. I will have more in-depth reviews for each of you at a later date. Bakugou, Aizawa glanced over at Katsuki. Yesterday, All Might told me he was going to speak with you over your performance during your match if he caught you before class. Did he? Katsuki looked off to the side. Yeah, he did. Good. You have talent, but you need to stop acting like a little kid. Stop wasting your potential. I know. Izuku stole a glance at Ochako, who just shrugged, not having any idea either why All Might would want to talk to Katsuki. Maybe it had something to do with how down Kaken was yesterday? Kota, Principal Nizu wanted me to inform you that he plans to have all the animals nesting in the battlegrounds humanely moved. Those areas are meant for students to be free to use their quirks in mock rescue and battles without the worry of living collateral damage. He will be contacting you at some point to help in the move. Koji nodded that he understood, happy to help. Midoriya, Uraraka. Both jolted in their seats. Yes, sir? I will continue to hold you to the high standard you both set yesterday. Understand? He was satisfied when he saw both give determined nods. Now that that's out of the way, you all have homeroom business to take care of. The whole class tensed, worried that their teacher had some new horrible test ready for them. You all need to pick a class representative. Collectively, the whole class let out a sigh of relief, happy that at least today they got to do something normal. The class's relief quickly devolved into shouts as students stood up to claim the position. I want to be class rep. Pick me. Me too. I want to do it, too. It's a job made for me. I'll be the leader. You maggots follow me. Let me do it. Me. Izuku almost laughed as he watched his classmates try to claim the spot. Even Katsuki had his hand up, yelling that he was the best choice for the position. If this were a normal class in a normal school, the job would amount to little more than giving speeches and making sure students behaved in class, so this kind of enthusiastic reaction wouldn't normally happen. Only people looking to add on to their future transcripts would be vying for the spot. I knew in the hero course it would be a little different. It's a great way to learn how to be a leader of a group of heroes and gives you practice for taking the role of a top hero, but still this is a pretty crazy response. Glancing behind, Izuku saw that Ochako was just as involved trying to get people to pick her. Actually, her intensity was making a couple of students take a few steps back. As Izuku looked over his classmates, he saw that Himiko was still sitting down, and in fact looked rather bored with her elbow on her desk and chin resting in her palm. Even the more reserved students like Hitoshi and Shuto were making cases for themselves. Not as exuberant as the others, but they were up making their cases. Himiko just didn't look interested at all. When she caught him looking at her, she smiled and gave him a wink, making Izuku blush and look away. Himiko giggled. While everyone continued to talk over each other, Tenya stood up and tried to get the class's attention. Everyone please. This position is very important. We can't just have a class representative who just wanted to do it. It must be someone that the class can trust to represent us. It is a serious responsibility. So what should we do then? Nina asked. I suggest we take a democratic approach. Let's hold an election to decide who will get the job. While some students seemed okay with the idea, others didn't look so convinced. Do you think that could even work? Voting kinda means we're putting our trust in someone, right? Ijiro said after some thought. Suyu tapped her chin. We've only known each other for a couple of days now. That's not enough time to build any real trust. Hitoshi agreed. Honestly, if it came down to a vote, most of the people here would probably just vote for themselves. But, Tenya started, don't you think that is precisely why whoever is able to get multiple votes here can be truly considered the most suitable person to lead our class? I can see your reasoning behind your idea, but I think it does have a small flaw in it, Momo said after some thought. Using a vote should mean that the winner gets a majority. Your method might have a person win, even if they get 2 votes. I know there are some of us that have friends in the class, so it's not outside the realm of possibility that while many of us vote for ourselves, someone would vote for their friend. Himiko, who had been quiet during the whole conversation, since she had no interest in the position, spoke up. Don't people in America narrow down a list of candidates and then vote for them? Tenya nodded. Yes, I believe that they do. Then how about we nominate a small group of people, or something, and then hold a vote? That way we can have a majority, and no one can vote for themselves. Himiko's idea invigorated Tenya. That could work out perfectly. Aizawa-sensei, is this alright with you? Aizawa had already slipped back into his sleeping bag. I really don't care. Just be done before the end of the day. Satisfied, and hearing no objections from anyone in the class, Tenya decided to get started. So does anyone want to nominate someone? Izuku's hand shot up. Uraraka. Katsuki groaned. There's a fucking shocker. I mean, she placed high in the entrance exam and Aizawa-sensei's test. Plus, she's worked really hard to get here. She's driven and really clever. She even came up with support items that work so well with her quirk and fighting style. Ochako fidgeted a little hearing Izuku heap praise on her while Katsuki rolled his eyes looking like he was ready to say something else, but Momo cut in. Would anyone else like to support Midoriya's nomination of Uraraka? Suyu raised her hand. I will. She was really cool when she was kicking my butt. Tenya jotted Ochako's name down on the board. Who would like to go next? Ochako raised her hand, but Katsuki cut her off. I swear to God. She's just going to nominate Deku. I thought this whole nomination thing was to keep people from just picking their friends. While Ochako blared at Katsuki, Himiko stood up and after taking the chalk from Tenya, quickly wrote Izuku's name under Ochako's. I'm nominating Izuku based on his character. When we first met, he saved me from a bunch of thugs. He didn't have to, he could have just kept walking, but he didn't, and I learned that this wasn't the only time he went out of his way to help people. Himiko gave Katsuki a pointed look as the boy went stiff. During the entrance exam he helped out Tenya and Hitoshi when they got into a little trouble with some of the robots. I think that should be plenty of reasons why Izuku would make a great class rep. While a few students looked from Himiko to Izuku, clearly wondering what exactly had happened, Himiko tossed the chalk back to Tenya and took her seat. Turning she looked at Katsuki. There, now it wasn't Ochako who nominated Izuku. That good enough for you, or are you gonna be a bitch about this too? Tenya, moving to stop the shout he was sure Katsuki was ready to unleash, asked the class if anyone would like to second the nomination. Ochako quickly raised her hand. For the remainder of the period, students spoke up and soon from the 22 in class, they had narrowed down a list of 6. Ochako, Izuku, Momo, Shoto, Tenya, and finally Katsuki. Katsuki's inclusion had come as a bit of a shock for a few, but Aegir had made a good case, having seen him in action in the entrance exam and reminding everyone of just how well he had done in the test they took their first day. With the homeroom period ending soon, it was decided that the final vote would take place by the end of last period. When the bell rang, Midnight looked up. It looks like we are out of time. We'll have to continue our lesson about nudity in art another day. Also make sure you look over the list of models I gave you. We'll decide on which one you'll be sketching next week. Collectively the class nodded and began to file their things away before heading off for lunch. Some students were still very red after Midnight's in-depth lesson. Izuku was clearly the most read out of everyone, having spent most of the time with his head down as he took his notes, only daring to look up when Midnight went out of her way to point something out on one of her mini slides. Himiko, who had been completely unfazed by the lesson, had to stop herself from laughing every time Izuku made an eep or squeak when he saw a new picture. I may have to get Midnight a present or something. Behind her she could hear Ochako, Tenya, and Hitoshi walking up to their desks. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. It's art after all. Himiko rolled her eyes as Ochako tried to play off her own embarrassment. Says the girl that was giving Izuku a run for his money. Ochako bent down and playfully poked Izuku. You still with us, Deku? Aha! Good. I'd rather not have to ask Yayorozu for more smelling salts after each class. Izuku waved her off. That wasn't, it's just art. Tenya nodded, very true. We must keep an open mind over such things. Says the guy whose glasses were fogged up after the first picture. Hitoshi said, so we going to get lunch or not? As the group was about to leave though, Midnight waved them down. Actually, if one of you don't mind, I could use some help. I have this box that's full of all those little repose statues. The boys all blushed remembering just what kind of statues Midnight had shown off. Smiling, Midnight looked over at Izuku and winked. Midoriya, would you mind giving me a hand? I just need this taken to the teacher's office. It won't take very long, I promise. Oh, I'm sure. I'm happy to help. Himiko glanced from Izuku to Midnight, giving the woman a questioning glare that she either didn't notice or did an excellent job ignoring. I guess you guys can go on ahead. I'll meet up with you when I'm done. Of course. We'll make sure to save you a seat. The group left, with Himiko giving the hero one last lingering look. Alone Izuku picked up the box. So just to the teacher's office, sensei? Yep, let's go. Oh, and you can just use my hero name when we're out of class. Oh. Okay. Izuku quickly fell into step behind the hero, who every once in a while glanced back at him. Not exactly a lot of time to talk to him, but I should use this chance to see what the boy that has Toga so enraptured is like. So, I trust UA has lived up to its reputation so far. Oh, absolutely, being here is a dream come true. Seeing and meeting so many heroes and getting taught by them is incredible. Midnight smirked. The boy had spirit if his enthusiastic response was anything to go by. She had also seen the recordings of the class first day of hero training. Izuku had shown a great deal of skill during his match. You seem to have made a nice group of friends too. Just don't forget that while it's good to have people to rely on, heroes build themselves up by competing against each other. You won't always be so lucky to have your friends on your side. Of course. I understand. Midnight noted the more timid response, but before she could make a comment, Izuku continued, but there are hero teams as well. Most may not be permanent, but they work together to help people. There are also agencies like the Wild Pussycats. Though I guess they're more the exception. You're not wrong, and like I said, you were able to get a nice group together pretty quickly. Most students take a while before they find their cliques. It is kinda weird having so many people want to hang out with me. Midnight arched an eyebrow. Oh? Considering how popular you are, I figured you had a bunch of friends before coming here. Izuku chuckled softly, though Midnight could hear the sadness in it, and just a hint of bitterness. I wasn't very popular back then. It wasn't until I met Uraraka a year ago that I really had a friend. What about Bakugou? You two come from the same school, right? That's complicated. Izuku had flinched when he spoke. He did his best to hide it, but Midnight saw the reaction as clear as could be. Maybe Toga was on the money with those two. Well, you have friends now, Izuku smiled at that, and you've even gotten the attention of Toga. She seems to like you very much. Izuku blushed. She's really nice and friendly. She really likes to get close to me though. Do you not like it? It's just, I don't see her do that with anyone else. It's strange. She must really like you then if you're the only one she does that to. I think it's just her way of being friendly is all. Midnight almost tripped on her own feet. The girl is practically throwing herself at you and you think she's just being friendly. Dear God, the girl was right, you are naive, kid. Coughing into her hand, Midnight regained her composure. Friendliness aside, she told me you and your other friends are aware of her current living situation. You mean that she's a ward of you, eh? Correct. I'm actually her counselor. Oh. Has she opened up about anything else? Izuku frowned, not really. She's dropped some hints a couple of times. I don't think she and her parents got along very well. That's an understatement. Besides that, she really doesn't talk about herself. She hasn't even told me what her quirk is, now that I think about it. She really has been keeping the kid in the dark, huh? Midnight, is there something I should know? If there's something I could do to help her, I want to do it. Midnight looked down at Izuku. He seemed determined to help, even if he wasn't sure what he could do. Is there something you should know? Kid, you have no idea. Midnight took a moment to collect her thoughts. Part of her was tempted to warn Izuku about Himiko. Despite all the work the heroes in the school had put into her, she was still a very dangerous person. However, Nizu had made it clear, unless it was absolutely necessary, or Himiko herself chose to share, the girl's past was not to be spread around outside of the heroes that worked at the school. If word got out, and suddenly her classmates, her friends, became scared of her, it could destroy any chance of saving her. Just be there for her. She's had a really rough time, and has made some choices that weren't for the best. She's getting a chance to restart her life. Having friends she knows she can trust will be a great help. Izuku nodded. I can do that. Definitely. That desire to help others. She's mentioned it a few times when she talks about him. Guess I've seen it for myself too. It just might be enough. One thing, Midoriya. Midnight added, her voice taking a sharp tone. Yes? If you ever see her acting strange, or stranger than normal, or you're afraid she might do something that could hurt herself or others, you find a teacher immediately. Me, Aizawa, All Might, any of us heroes. You find us and we'll take care of her. But what if I could dash? Midoriya, Midnight cut him off, already guessing he was going to ask if he could do something. Her tone made it clear what answer she wanted to hear from him. I understand. Good. I'm not saying that you'll ever have to, but I want you to know that I'm not asking you to do this. I am telling you. Oh, one last thing, while I won't ask you to not tell Toga and your friends what we talked about, if you decided to be a little vague, I'd appreciate it. Toga doesn't always like talking with me, and I'd rather not give her a reason to want to avoid our sessions. And there isn't a reason to worry your other friends. Right? I'll come up with something. Good boy. Now why don't we talk about something more fun? Oh, are you dash? Before Midnight could finish, alarms started blaring throughout the hallway, startling both. What is that? That's the security alarm? It means someone broke into the school. Someone broke in. Izuku's mind raced. How was that possible? UA was supposed to be one of the most secure places in the country. Midnight pointed at him with her whip. Midoriya, I want you to go ahead to the teacher's office and stay there. I need to see what's going on. I'll have someone either get you or contact you once this is cleared up. But Uraraka and Dash. Midoriya. Teacher's office. Now. Izuku nodded and hurried down the hall, while Midnight pulled out her phone and tried to get in contact with someone. Alarms blaring, and the first thing the kid wants to do is find his friends. Yeah, maybe I can see why Toga finds him so appealing. Course, an attitude like that might get him into trouble if he isn't careful. So, did Midoriya hurt himself again or something? Hitoshi asked as he put his tray of food down and sat with everyone. Ochako blinked, surprised by the question. No? Why do you ask? Because this is the second time he's been taken away by a teacher. Last time was because he hurt himself in the entrance exam. Maybe he did something during the battle trial? No, he's totally fine. Tenya rubbed his chin. It could be she just wanted Midoriya to help her carry the box. Every time a teacher talks to him doesn't have to be over something serious or secretive. Himiko huffed before aggressively taking a bite of her lunch. Sensing the topic might not be something Himiko wanted to hear, Hitoshi changed gears. So how do you think the voting later is going to go? Himiko took another bite. Well, if it's anything like a real election, Himiko raised her voice, just enough for the table next to them to hear. Rich girl will just bribe everyone to get her votes. Momo, who had been having a chat with some of the other girls, sputtered in shock while Mina and Kuka laughed. I would never. Ochako smirked. Well, if that's the case, Ida will give her a run for her money for sure. Oh, and I'll take cash for my bribe, please. Tenya's shocked face matched Momo's Uraraka, toga. To insinuate that bribery would take place in a hallowed tradition of electing a class representative is an insult to the very school. Fixing his glasses, Tenya looked at Ochako curiously. Also, why would I be the one to give her a run for her money? 'Cause you're a rich boy, Ida. Ochako stated. But I thought I had done a good job changing how I speak. Hitoshi deadpanned. That was you trying to hide it? Didn't I hear you say you went to Somei Junior High in class? Himiko blinked. That a good school? Private and prestigious. Rolling her eyes, Himiko glanced over at Tenya. Oh, so was the spoon silver or gold then? Both tables laughed while Tenya lowered his head. So, if UA is above bribery, I guess that just leaves blackmail. Who'd do that, I wonder? Hitoshi asked. Ochako's head turned to look over at Katsuki a few tables away. Himiko raised an eyebrow. Is he subtle enough to be able to blackmail someone? Nope. I still can't believe he made the list. While Kirishima did bring up some valid points, Tenya wilted when Ochako narrowed her eyes at him. As Ochako opened her mouth to tell Tenya why there was absolutely, positively, and without question no valid reason for Katsuki to have been nominated, the sudden screech of an alarm cut her off. At once the relaxed mood of the room shattered as everyone turned and listened to the warning from the intercom. There has been a level 3 security breach. All students please evacuate outdoors promptly. Snapping her mouth shut, Ochako suddenly felt dizzy. An alarm? Level 3? What does that all mean? Around them, students from the other tables bolted up. Hitoshi looked around. Hey, what's going on? What's that alarm mean? Himiko jumped up, pulling a startled Ochako and Hitoshi with her. It means someone broke into the school. Let's get out of here, this place is about to be a madhouse. You too, Tenya, let's get going. What? Ochako was stunned. The idea that someone could possibly break into UA sounded completely ridiculous, and yet, the blaring alarm and panicking students painted a different reality than what she thought possible. All too quickly though, Himiko's prediction came true as the halls were filled to the brink with students rushing for the nearest exit. In the madness, the Hitoshi was separated from the three, and soon after Ochako and Himiko were pushed up against a wall, with Tenya not that far away. Ochako grunted as her back hit the window, and Himiko getting driven into her chest. Straining, Ochako pushed back on the wall of bodies that were getting close to crushing the toe of the. Get off. Ochako looked down, alarmed to hear Himiko sounding so strained. Her face was twisted as she pushed back, trying to give herself some space, but to no avail. I can't breath. Get off. Ochako was reminded of an alley cat she had seen as a child. Cornered by a couple of dogs, the cat turned nasty, with fangs bared, back arched and claws ready to tear anything that came near apart. Himiko reminded her of that cat. She looked just about ready to lash out at any moment. With a hard grunt, Ochako pushed hard against the wall of bodies, feeling the strain in her arms as she forced a few of them back, at least a few inches. Her muscles burned, but at least she had given the two of them a little breathing room. This is crazy, someone is going to get hurt. Getting mashed against the same window, Tenya nodded, yes, as expected of the best of the best. Everyone was quick to react to the order to evacuate. As one, Ochako and Himiko both snapped, not the time for compliments. Ochako felt a shift against one of the people she was pressing against. With a startled gasp, Momo was forced through a small gap and shoved right next to the three. Yayorozu? Yayorozu, are you alright? Wait, what do you have there? What surprised the Tenya was that Momo was holding a megaphone that she was trying to make sure she didn't drop. It's the media. Eh? The media. You can see them through the window. I just saw them a bit ago. The teachers are confronting them. While Ochako had her back against the window, and Himiko was too distracted making sure she didn't start dropping people to give herself some more breathing room, Tenya was the only one of the three that was able to look and confirm what Momo had seen. They got inside? They must be the reason the alarm went off, and why there aren't any teachers here helping us. They're dealing with all those reporters. Himiko snarled, are you fucking kidding me? Everyone is freaking out because of a bunch of reporters. We need to let everyone know that there's nothing to worry about. Momo nodded, I thought I could get everyone's attention with this, but I keep getting knocked around and it's not carrying while I'm in the crowd. Tenya's mind raced. They needed some way to get everyone's attention, which was impossible while they were getting pushed around in the crowd. They would need to get in everyone's line of sight, which would mean. Looking to his side, Momo was to his left, and Ochako was to his right. Yayorozu, please hand me that megaphone. While not sure what Tenya was planning, Momo reached out and was able to just hand over the device. With the megaphone in hand, Tenya reached out towards Ochako. Uraraka. I need you to make me float. Ha! Why does he want that? It'll be easier for him to get carried away or crushed. Her confusion and worry must have shown because Tenya strained his hand closer to her saying, I have a plan. Please trust me. Hesitating only a moment more, Ochako pulled one of her hands off the wall of bodies, almost cursing as in that moment, most of the space she had been able to give herself and Himiko shrinking. Reaching out, she strained to reach Tenya's hand. Counting out the pads as they made contact with his hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, come on. 5. Only momentarily taken aback from the feeling of weightlessness, Tenya quickly put his plan into motion. The engines in his legs roared to life and blasted him out of the crowd and up into the air. Angling himself, Tenya was able to turn so that his back hit the ceiling. Above the crowd, Tenya took a deep breath and brought the megaphone to his mouth. Everyone please calm down. Everything is fine. The reporters and media are the ones that were able to get inside, but the faculty are dealing with them. Please, we are UA students, the best of the best, let us act in a way befitting this great school. Tenya's voice carried over the noise of the crowd, his message having an immediate effect. The noise and panic died down. With the panic gone, everyone stopped pushing against everyone else and finally the stampede came to a halt. Ochako sighed with relief as the pressure on her arms was released and she was able to lean against the window and relax, evidently rubbing her arms to work out the soreness. Looking down, she saw that Himiko was much less wound up, not that she wasn't getting pressed against by so many people. Thank goodness that's over. If people kept trying to rush for the door like that, someone was going to get trampled and hurt. Ida did such a great job getting them to calm down. He and Yayorozu did a good job. She was the one trying to get everyone under control to begin with. They both acted like real leaders. Izuku reached the teacher's office just as a large group of students came rushing by in a panic, only just getting the door open and slipping in before the large mob forced it closed, leaving Izuku more or less sealed inside. Man, everyone is really freaked out, Izuku let out a long sigh as he tried to steady his own nerves, but I guess I can't really blame them. I don't think I ever heard of anyone breaking into UA before. I hope Uraraka and the others are okay. If everyone in the cafeteria acted like that mob. Shaking his head, Izuku tried to put the thought out of his mind. He was stuck here until he was told he could leave. He might as well put the box on Midnight's desk and make himself comfortable. Are you kidding me? Izuku blinked when he heard a coarse, but pitchy voice from behind him. Izuku had thought he was alone in the office, so hearing someone else took him by surprise. Turning around, Izuku found a tall but lanky young man standing on the other side of the room. He looked like he was older than Izuku, older than the third years too, but not by much. Only a few years. His hair was a light gray and his skin was pale and dry, with cracks along his mouth. Wearing all black, he almost melted into the shadows of the darkroom, but his red eyes almost glowed in the dark, and they were looking right at Izuku. Izuku almost missed that the man had a folder in his hand as he stood next to an open filing cabinet. Izuku wasn't sure why, but he felt himself break into a cold sweat. Something about the way the man was looking at him was ringing alarms in his mind. The word danger kept flashing in his head, but this was UA. He shouldn't be worried like this. There were no real dangers here. The break-in must have me more shook up than I realized. I should be ashamed, getting all freaked out like that because he looks a little scary. Hi, I know students shouldn't normally be here unsupervised, but Midnight asked me to drop this box off for her. She was with me but had to rush off because of the alarm. The man kept looking at him. Are you a teacher? I don't think I've seen you around before. If he was a teacher, then he was a hero too, but Izuku couldn't think of a hero matching his description, and Izuku prided himself on knowing a lot of heroes, even the more underground ones that avoided the media and public. Yes, sir? The man snapped the folder he was holding closed, and for the briefest moment, every fiber of his being was telling Izuku to run, but then the man smiled. Sorry, didn't mean to scare you, but you kinda caught me in the middle of something. His voice was still coarse, but had taken an almost jovial tone. I thought you were a teacher for a second. I'd be in trouble if that was the case. Oh? I don't mean to get you in trouble, doing. The man held up the folder. I'm a new sidekick helping as a TA for some of the third years, but I totally forgot the lesson plan for the next few days. Nerves, I guess. This is my first big break and I want to make sure it goes perfectly. So I kinda snuck in to make sure I have everything I need. Oh, he's a sidekick. That explains why I don't recognize him. Oh, sorry if I spooked you too. With the alarms and everything, I guess everyone is a little on edge. Right, the alarms. There was an awkward silence as the two looked at each other, before after a few more moments the alarms going off stopped. Izuku swore he saw the man tense when that happened. Hey kid. Oh, it's Midoriya. Izuku Midoriya. Midoriya, great. Listen, I really don't want to get into trouble, like I said, this is my first big break. So if you wouldn't mind keeping this between us? I'd be very grateful. Wow, he must be really worried he's gonna get in trouble and mess up his chance. He's shaking a little. Izuku smiled. I don't know what you're talking about, I just came in and dropped off this box. I didn't see anyone else come in. The man smirked as he put the file away. Good, you're doing me a huge favor, kid. Thanks. Izuku nodded and carried the box over to Midnight's desk. Though with all the commotion, how are you going to get out without being seen? Silence, answered Izuku, who turned to find the room empty. Blinking in confusion, Izuku scanned the dark room until he heard a window blind rattle against an open window. Wow, that's one way to make a plus ultra exit. Sitting down, Izuku waited in the office until he got the all clear. Hopefully before lunch period was over, he was getting a little hungry. The police are already helping us have the reporters removed from the grounds. As such, classes will resume as normal. Ochako sighed as she slumped into her seat, after Tenya and Momo had gotten word out that the intruders were only a group of reporters, and now with Principal Nizu's announcement the students in the cafeteria had completely calmed down. A few of her classmates were patting the two on the back, impressed with how they were able to get the crowd to stop before someone got hurt. While they tried to play it off as just something anyone could have done, it didn't change the fact that they were the ones that took the initiative and did it. It was a great demonstration of leadership. Uraraka. Looking up, Ochako spotted Izuku darting between tables as he rushed over to her. Deku, there you are. Ochako raised an eyebrow when Izuku reached her table and promptly leaned down to catch his breath. Did he run all the way here or something? Deku, are you alright? Izuku nodded, yeah, I'm okay. Midnight Sensei had me stay in the teacher's office until the all clear. She just let me know I could leave. So I hurried over. Why'd you hurry over? There's still plenty of time left for lunch. Sheepishly, Izuku scratched the back of his neck. I was worried. It got kinda crazy in the halls, so I figured it would be pretty bad here. Ochako smiled as a warmth filled her chest. Knowing that Izuku had been worried about her felt nice. If a little weird, when she thought about it, since she was feeling happy over him probably feeling pretty stressed out locked in the office. Promptly deciding she didn't want the headache of trying to unravel that whole mess, she pushed out a chair next to her and motioned for Izuku to have a seat. Here, have a seat. Nodding, Izuku sat down. So everyone else is okay too? Yeah, Shinso went to go get some more food. Toga is somewhere. Said she needed some space after almost getting crushed. Izuku winced. It sounds like things got pretty bad over here. Honestly, it was pretty crazy. People were panicking. If it weren't for Ida and Yaoyorozu, someone would have gotten hurt. Wait, what happened? Ochako told Izuku about how after the alarm, Tenya had seen the reporters in the window. How Momo had tried to get above the students with a microphone to get them to calm down, and how Tenya had taken it and had her float him so he could relay what was actually happening. Izuku was clearly impressed. Wow, that's incredible that they were able to work together and get the crowd under control like that. That's some great leadership. Nodding, Ochako leaned forward, a serious look crossing her face. Actually, there was something I wanted to talk to you about that. Himiko sipped on her pouch as she looked at the ruins of the front gate. With most of the reporters cleared out, the area had an eerie calm to it. As someone who had made a living, so to speak, in dark alleys, Toga found the atmosphere welcoming. Especially after the incident in the lunchroom. Getting pushed around like that had almost been enough to make her lash out. She hadn't, of course, but she still swung by her room to grab an extra blood pouch for herself. She deserved in reward for being so understanding. Behind her she could hear someone walking up to her. Someone small. Shouldn't you be with your friends finishing your lunch? Nizu stopped to stand beside the young girl. I was almost crushed to death. I think I'll avoid the crowd for a bit until my next class. The furry principal nodded in understanding. That must have been very trying for you, though didn't you used to brag that a crowd of people was the best place to disappear? A crowd, yes. A stampede of scared kids, not so much. No space to work with. Nizu nodded, before reaching up and tapping her side, his paw finding exactly where she had a box cutter tucked away at her waist. At least you didn't go so far as to try to make yourself some space. Sighing, Himiko reached under her uniform and pulled out the hidden blade, handing it to Nizu, who took it and quietly pocketed it. The two stood in silence looking at the damage. You don't really think it was a reporter that did this, do you? No reporter has the steel pair to try something like this. Nizu looked up at Toga. What do you think? Himiko crossed her arms. That I know there are people out there that would love to take a pot shot at UA, and hope they got lucky enough to cause a little chaos. True. Very true. We've had our fair share of ruffians and bad eggs that have tried their hands at vandalization and attempts to intimidate our students. Doesn't UA also have a rivalry with some other school? Katsubun something? Ketsubutsu. Do you think this was a prank? Himiko snorted, not really. No, someone took a shot at you. It was clear Nizu agreed. His eyes were scanning everything in front of him. Himiko could see his intelligence quirk was hard at work trying to put the pieces all together. You are right, this was an attack. But what was the goal, the intention? A shot across the bow? A declaration of war? Or did something evil slip in while everyone was distracted? Himiko finished her pouch and crumpled it up. Well, you have fun figuring that out. I got troubles of my own to deal with. Like homework and stuff. Stuff? Like schoolyard crushes? Wagging her finger, Himiko walked off. Nope, a girl does not discuss matters of the heart with older men. Enjoy the rest of your classes, Toga. Oh yeah, math and social studies, always the funnest part of my day. Himiko made it a few more steps before Nizu added, oh, Toga? When you talk to Midnight tonight, please be sure to mention how you didn't use this weapon, Nizu patted his pocket, when you were getting crushed today. Himiko groaned, but didn't talk back. Getting into an argument with him was not worth the headache. It was the end of final period and at long last, it was time for the students to vote on who would be their class representative. Aizawa had quickly slithered into his sleeping bag and handed over the responsibility to Tenya. After handing out cards for people to write down their vote, Tenya addressed the room. Now, of our nominees, would anyone like to make any closing arguments on why they should be elected? Katsuki stood up. You all want a leader that's going to go places, and that's me. You're looking at greatness in the making, and on my journey to the top, it'll be easy to drag you all out of obscurity. You'll all be better just by proxy. Kyuka groaned, the hell, does the guy think he's the second coming of All Might or something? All Might is going to wish he was as good as me when I'm done here. Suyu tapped her chin. How'd your battle trial go again? What did you say, frog legs? Tenya moved between the two, calming them, or mostly, Katsuki down. Does anyone else want to say anything? Ochako raised her hand. I'd like to say something. Standing up, Ochako glanced over the class, eyes briefly meeting Izuku's, who gave her a supporting nod. Earlier today, there was an incident during lunch. More than a few students winced or frowned, the stampede was still fresh in their minds. Well, while everyone was either trying to get out of the building, or just trying not to get crushed, Ida and Yayarozu were taking actions to get the whole thing under control. Both Tenya and Momo tensed in surprise, neither having expected Ochako to talk about this. They were able to work together, find out what had caused the alarm, and get everyone to settle down before someone got hurt. They showed initiative, ingenuity, and leadership. All traits I think that would make them great reps for our class. I think you should vote for them. So I plan on withdrawing from the vote. If you had planned on voting for me, I'm sorry, but those two deserve it more. Many in the class were shocked, none more than Tenya and Momo who weren't sure what to say. Izuku then stood up. I'd also like to withdraw my name from the vote. While I wasn't there, Uraraka made it pretty clear what had happened, and I have to agree with her. If there are two people here that deserve the position, it's them. Wait a second please. Tenya's arms were moving in a blur. It was Yayarozu who noticed it was the media first. She was also the one trying to get everyone's attention. She'd even made a megaphone to try and talk over the crowd. But it was you who was able to do it, Ida. Tenya blinked and turned to look at Momo. I wasn't able to get the crowd to calm down, but you were. It was your idea to have Uraraka float you above everyone and use my megaphone to talk over everyone. I don't think I would have ever thought of that. The class was talking amongst themselves openly now. Many agreeing with Ochako, Izuku, and Momo said. Hitoshi then spoke up. Heck, if you think about it, Ida's the one that took charge of this whole election thing to begin with. He's kinda already been leading the class. More people nodded while Tenya looked around, not sure what to say. Aizawa's rough voice cut over everyone. If you all are going to vote, then get on with it. Class is almost over. Nodding, everyone took out their cards and quickly wrote down their vote. After everything was tallied, Aizawa made the official announcement. Ida has been elected as your class representative, with Yayarozu acting as the vice representative. Katsuki frowned but kept quiet, while everyone else clapped for the winners. Tenya bowed deeply. Thank you all for your votes of confidence. I promise to carry out the duties as your call representative to the best of my ability. With classes over, the Deku squad made their way towards the school gate, with everyone but Himiko dreading the thought of having to walk through the sea of reporters again. You know, Toga, maybe I should take you up on your offer. Izuku said with a laugh. Himiko blushed and a huge smile crossed her face, before she remembered just what Izuku thought she had offered. Though, if I could get him to stay overnight, nah, that'd be too fast. The poor boy would short-circuit before I could get to the fun parts. I mean, I'm not that thirsty. Himiko noticed the smile Izuku had while looking at her and gulped. Nope, I'm thirsty. I want a tall glass of this boy, right now. What offer are you talking about, Deku? Himiko could feel Ochako's gaze drilling into her back. Izuku quickly answered, Toga joked about maybe I should camp out on campus so I don't have to deal with the reporters. Yep. That is totally what I meant. Yep, totally. Ochako narrowed her eyes at Himiko while the other girl turned and waved at her, smiling. Deciding to let it go, Ochako made a note to herself to find a convincing way to let Izuku hand over his phone. Of course she still hadn't gotten a good look at her entry in his notebook, so getting his phone might be a bit problematic. I swear, I'm just gonna take it and run. Before I forget, Tenya started, are you all free this weekend? I am. I'm pretty sure Deku and I are. I live here and have no social life, so yeah, totally free. Excellent. Since we had such an enjoyable time at Midoriya's, I would like to extend an invitation for you all to come over to my home for some relaxation and recreation. Hitoshi translated, you mean you want us to come over and hang out? Yes. Ochako smiled, that sounds like fun. Yeah, Izuku agreed, it'll be fun to hang out again. Hitoshi shrugged, sure, I'm pretty sure I can make it. Well, if everyone is going, I sure am not getting left out. Himiko added. Yes, but please make sure you get permission this time. I would hate to have to reprimand you to someone. Himiko shot Tenya a look, but kept her voice light, just because you're the class rep doesn't mean you're my boss. As your class representative, it is my responsibility to ensure you follow the rules laid out by the school. All the rules. I'm hiding your glasses. I have spares, was Tenya's quick reply. While everyone laughed as for once, Himiko looked completely lost, something that she would not forgive Tenya for. Their laughter came to a stop when they reached the remains of the front gate. Hitoshi whistled, wow, is this how the media got in? Ochako lightly tapped on the gate side, and was startled when some of the metal crumpled under her knuckles, falling to the ground as a cloud of rusty dust. I know they wanted an interview, but this is ridiculous. To damage school property in such a careless way, have they no shame? No, they don't, Ochako, remembering the woman from earlier in the morning, kept her voice low when she responded. While everyone else looked over the gate, Himiko peeked her head out. Well, it looks like someone scared the reporters off at least. Must have learned just how much trouble they could get in for breaking into the school like they did. If we're lucky, that the most exciting thing we'll have to deal with this week. Hitoshi said, sounding tired. This week? Ochako asked. I'm learning to expect the unexpected at this point. Giant robots, surprise expulsion tests, and now stampede causing reporters. It's honestly exhausting. Ochako and Himiko laughed at the poor boy. Izuku reached up and pulled a chunk of metal off the gate, rubbing his thumb over the rusted metal. Whoever did this must have a really powerful quirk. The metal in the barrier is what, 6 inches thick? Look, Izuku squeezed and the chunk of steel crumpled in his hand. I'd hate to be on the bad side of someone who could do this. It was the next day and everyone had just returned from lunch, which had thankfully involved less stampeding than yesterday. As everyone took their seats, there was a nervous excitement in the air. Their next period was heroics, and after their last lesson, many were looking forward to making up for their loss in the mock battles. Just as the bell rang, Aizawa entered the class, which caused a few students to glance around. Heroics was All Might's class after all. Their disappointment and confusion must have shown as Aizawa eyed them and gave an exasperated sigh. You all need to learn to hide your emotions better. You're too easy to read. There was an audible gulp from the class. Anyway, today's heroics class is going to be different from last time. Myself and one other teacher will be joining All Might for this training course. Today's different? I wonder what makes this lesson different from last time. While Izuku tried to come up with an answer, Himiko decided to just ask, so what are we doing today anyway? Today we'll focus on rescue training. Natural disasters, shipwrecks, man-made catastrophes, and everything in between. Ochako's eyes lit up. While she had come to really enjoy combat training these past few months, rescue heroes, like 13, had been her biggest inspiration, and now she was going to get a chance to work towards being like favorite hero. Ochako couldn't help but feel herself getting fired up. While Ochako was getting excited, a few students looked less than pleased. Katsuki sighed and almost looked bored, while Denki groaned as he leaned back into his chair. Rescue training, huh? I get the feeling this is going to be a lot of hard work. Yeah, no kidding, Hanta agreed, not looking forward to what this training was going to entail. Ochako frowned at their dismissive attitude. Are you guys for real? Heroes save people all the time. Just because you don't get to do it while fighting a bad guy, you're going to have that kind of attitude? Both boys winced at Ochako's sharp chiding, which was not helped when some more students came to her side. Yeah, come on guys, that's not a really manly perspective at all. You two should be ready to go like me. Exactly. It is a hero's duty to rescue people, Tenya added, hands chopping in their direction. While some students made sure others were going to give it their all during the class, some others were looking forward to a chance to show off. If there are going to be shipwrecks and water rescues, then I'll be sure to come out on top. No one can beat me in the water. Kyuka smirked. If it's search and rescue, that'll be perfect for me. Hey, I wasn't done talking, Aizawa's voice cut in, silencing everyone. I'm giving you all the choice if you want to wear your costumes to this lesson, though I recommend you do so. There is a good chance that aspects of your costumes may hinder or limit your abilities in rescue situations. This is a good time to find out. The training today will be held off campus at the USJ, so we'll be taking a bus. Hurry up and get ready. We'll meet up and head out immediately. As everyone got up to collect their things, Izuku could help but smile as he watched Ochako excitedly get her costume case. Her excitement was obviously contagious as several other students were getting pumped up along with her, Izuku himself included. Rescue work has always been important to her. I guess it makes sense why she's so excited. And she isn't wrong either. Rescue work is an important aspect of being a hero. Even if you were able to beat the villain, what was the point if you couldn't save the people he was threatening? Saving people, that's how a hero wins. Above all else, a hero has to save the people in danger, no matter what. Class 1A, gather round. I will be instructing you on how we will be boarding the bus to USJ. We want this to go as smoothly as possible, so follow my instructions to the letter. Tenya's hands were moving in a blur as he made sure everyone in the class was paying attention to him. Off to the side, Hitoshi sighed as he gave Ochako an annoyed look. You made us elect a dictator. Everything that happens now is your fault. I want you to form 2 lines going off your student number. Each group of 2 will sit next to each other. Now let's make this go as smoothly as we can. Smoothly. Ochako laughed nervously. Well, at least he's taking the position seriously? You too. Shinso, Uraraka. Please do not talk amongst yourself while I am directing you on how we will be loading up the bus. Uraraka blinked before muttering under her breath, Vive la revolution. Vive la resistance, muttered Hitoshi. Tenya felt a shudder run up his spine, and looked back over at his 2 smiling friends. Before he could question why he was filled with such dread, Momo walked up to him. Ida, there may be a problem with your seating arrangement. While Tenya learned that the layout of the bus was not what he had expected, everyone else took their chance and filed in. Izuku found an empty seat and quickly sat down. While he tried to stay calm, he was filled with nervous excitement. The USJ was one of the most premier rescue training facilities in the country. It was supposed to be able to recreate a wide range of different natural and man-made disasters that could put even the most well-trained rescue hero through their paces, and he was about to have his first lesson there. You look like you're ready to go, Midoriya, Karo. Looking up, Izuku was surprised to see Tsuyu standing over him. I guess I'm still not used to people just coming up and talking to me. Yeah, I am, Azui. To get a chance to have a rescue lesson at USJ is so exciting. While her face stayed the same, she tapped her finger to her chin, call me Isu, and sat down next to him. You don't mind? Oh. Please, it's fine, ASU .. Tsuyu eyed him, Su. Izuku. You saved me a seat, how nice. Himiko smiled happily as she plopped down next to Izuku with a little squeal of glee. Though she was more than a little into Izuku's seat, making sure her shoulders rubbed up against him, but being careful that none of her blades came to close. Izuku returned Himiko's smile. Hey, Toga. You seem excited. Looking forward to the lesson? The lesson? Oh. Yeah, it should be fun. Himiko decided not to mention that she was more excited at the chance to get to see Izuku in his cute costume. Tsuyu leaned over. You don't really look like you have a lot of support or rescue gear on your costume though. Izuku rubbed his chin and reached up and tapped on of the cylinders on Himiko's mask. Maybe these things are dash. Himiko eeped and pulled back, putting her hands over the gear. Nope. Nope, those are not for rescuing. Please, no touching. That's just what I need to happen, have a big OL needle go right through Izuku's hand. So you don't have any kind of rescue gear then? Not really, no. Izuku eyed the gear on Himiko's mask, and the mask itself. Noting that there was a smaller mask hidden underneath the fanged larger one. Those tubes almost look like they would go into her mouth? Like a bunch of straws. Maybe she has to drink something for her quirk to work. She did say it needed resources to work. Could those things be filled with whatever she needs, or, Izuku noticed that Himiko was growing increasingly uncomfortable under his gaze, and was trying to keep the gear out of sight, while not drawing attention that she was doing so. If they are something to do with her quirk, and she hasn't told me what it is, of course she'd be uncomfortable with me looking to close. Idiot, change the subject. Well, this will be a good opportunity to see if you need to make any alterations. I'm sure everyone here will be making upgrades and the like after getting some actual experience while in our costumes. Himiko relaxed as Izuku averted his eyes and changed the subject. Yeah, I guess so. With how quickly you were able to find the bomb the other day, I bet you'd do great at search and rescue, Karo, Tsuyu added. I'm not too sure about that, but thanks, Tsuyu. Call me Tsu. Himiko blinked. Tsu? I get to use a nickname? Does that make us friends? Tsuyu nodded. Himiko smiled brightly and leaning over Izuku wrapped a startled Tsuyu in a hug. Yay! I got another friend. While Himiko hugged Tsuyu, and Izuku tried very hard not to think about there being a girl lying across his lap, Ochako got onto the bus with the last of the class and paused at the scene playing out before her. Himiko looked up at her as she straightened up and took her seat next to Izuku, smiling at her. Ochako smiled back before taking a place across from them, next to Momo and Tenya. Izuku swore he could actually see sparks going off between them as he looked between the two. A little concerned since he could feel the tension between the two. There always was, it seemed, since the first day, but every once in a while it spiked, like it was spiking now. It's like they're competing over something. Did this start after Aizawa-sensei's test? Did they become rivals or something? First it was the test, then our first hero lesson, and now the rescue lesson. They must have formed a rivalry. That's great, I'm glad Uraraka has found someone to push her, and Toga has someone else to be close with along with Ida, Shinso, and me. Though should rivales always be this intense? I get that they're gearing up for the lesson, but this is just a bus ride. What could they be fighting over here? Midoriya, you're muttering, Karo. Oh, sorry. Izuku rubbed his head, embarrassed. Also, you are really oblivious. Before long the bus was on the road, on its way to USJ. For most of the trip, Izuku went back to wondering what kind of practice he was going to get to do, so he wasn't paying much attention to the conversations that were taking place around him. What do you think, Midoriya? Ijiro asked. Izuku blinked, suddenly hearing his name. What was the question? Well, according to Uraraka you're the quirk expert, Ochako chuckled when Izuku shot her a glance. So, how important do you think having a flashy quirk is to being a hero? Take mine for example, it's pretty good against people, but it isn't really flashy. Holding up his arm, Ijiro hardened the skin, showing it to everyone in the conversation. I think it's a great quirk though. It can easily be a pro's quirk. There are so many ways you could use that for offense and defense. Nina nodded. Told you. Ijiro smiled as he put his hand down. Denki then threw in, but don't heroes also have to think about popularity? Having a flashy quirk would make that a lot easier. Says the guy that lights up like a Christmas tree, Himiko deadpanned. I'm just saying, flashy and strong make it way easier to get noticed. Ijiro agreed, I see what you mean. I'd say the 3 of the strongest people in class have the flashiest quirks. 3 strongest? Who you got picked? Mina asked. Todoroki, Bakugou and Midoriya. Those 3 have really strong quirks and they're flashy as hell. A few students nodded in agreement. Wait, me? While Izuku was shocked that he was considered one of the strongest in the class, Tsuyu cut in, Bakugou may be strong, but he's too mad all the time. I don't think he'd be very popular. The fuck you just say? Bakugou screamed from his seat. Kyuka added, yeah, even though we haven't known each other that long, it's pretty telling that we can all see your attitude is a total dumpster fire. Real brave of you to say that all the way down there. Why don't you come over here and say that shit? Katsuki growled. Kyuka sighed and surprised a few people, Izuku most of all, when she stood up and walked over to Katsuki's seat and looked down at him. Your attitude is complete shit. Plus I wouldn't have you in the top 3. Pointing over to Momo she continued, Yaoyorozu can make cannons so she can do what you do, but way cooler. Momo blushed at the compliment and vote of confidence. Katsuki seethed at Kyuka, who returned his glare with an eye roll as she went back to her seat. Ochako broke out into a laughing fit while Izuku was having a very hard time registering that there were people giving Katsuki such a hard time. This is crazy. If I looked outside and the sky was green, I wouldn't be surprised. Thank you, Jiru, but it takes time for me to make something like a cannon, even if I wanted to make a small one. Bakugou could do a lot more in the same amount of time. Damn right I fucking could. Izuku blinked and scratched his chin, looking at her. Yaoyorozu, do you have to fully form something before it can work? Ochako frowned for a second, then blinked as the guessed what Izuku was asking. That's a neat idea, Deku. Their classmates looked confused, Momo most of all. I'm sorry, but am I missing something? I'm just wondering, if you made the cannon barrel, powder and projectile but kept it attached to yourself, you'd be able to cut down on your attack time and save you resources to make other things. Actually, what do you use to make things? Body fat. A few girls shot Momo some jealous looks as she looked down at herself, questioningly, and I never thought of that before. Ochako smirked as she saw more than a few students giving Izuku some impressed looks. See, quirk expert. After the short trip, the bus pulled into the facility parking lot and, as everyone disembarked, they found the Hero 13 waiting for them. Hello everyone, and welcome to the USJ. I've been waiting for you. Eek. Ochako, upon seeing her favorite hero in person, wasn't able to hold back her excitement as she latched onto Izuku's arm and started jumping. It's 13. Deku, it's 13. Oh my gosh, it's really her. She's the greatest rescue hero there is. She saved so many people, and she's going to be our teacher. I love you. A few students laughed, while 13 chuckled, rubbing the back of her helmet. It looks like I have a fan. Katsuki groaned into his hand. Great, Deku's infected her with his hero worship shit. Just what I fucking need. Aizawa fixed Ochako with a look. Uraraka, calm down. Ochako quickly closed her mouth, but was still bouncing up and down in her excitement. 13 clapped her hands together. Right, let's all head inside without further delay. Tamira sat, away from the group of thugs that had been gathered for him. Around him, he could hear the others, talking and shouting. There was an air of excitement. The large group knew why they had been gathered and knew what was expected of them. They were going to kill the symbol of peace. They were going to kill All Might. They were also going to kill anyone that stood in their way. Teachers and students alike. The group jostled and pushed each other. There was blood in the water, and they were one misstep away from going into a frenzy, but they made sure to keep their distance from Tamira and the hulking monster behind him. A couple had made the mistake of getting too close, wondering why they should be listening to some punk. They were either a red smear on the ground, or had been reduced to rotting chunks. His plan had almost fallen to tatters before it had even begun. Running into that student, Midoriya, had almost cost him something. Sensei had made sure to let him know when he had returned to the bar. Sensei did applaud his restraint, however. Killing the student would have had the same effect if he had been caught. The window to strike would have closed, and any other further attacks would become almost impossible. He was lucky the kid was so gullible to believe his lie. Such a stupid little kid. Tamura reached up and scratched at his neck. He was getting tired of waiting. The urge to destroy something, to kill, was eating away at him. Waiting was boring, and he was tired of being bored. Behind him, the air twisted and warped as a cloud of black mist formed, taking the shape of something almost human. Shigaraki, the students have arrived at the facility. Finally. Pulling out a pale severed hand, and placing it on his face, Tamura couldn't help but feel his excitement start to bubble up. Kurogiri, let's go kill us a hero. That will be it for this part. I hope everyone enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like and comment if you want part 14. If you want to hear more from me, subscribe. I hope to see you all in the next one.